knowing that in terms of the primary source and the secondary source, again, in the diploma you learn this, where you have the Quran and Sunnah and then Ijma, Qiyas. So that's where the differences between the component, I think some of the scholars will take the stand of the Hanafi, whereby Quran and Sunnah are the primary, and then Ijma of the Sahaba becomes their secondary choice. So this is what he's referring to. He refers to that kind of group of the companion and their immediate followers, who will include the face. So this permissibility, however, excludes such cosmetic which women today use for their cheek, lips, and nail. Excluded that. We consider this cosmetic to be excessive, and they must not be used except within women's own home. It's almost impossible that you can make a woman do that. It's the other way around. But this is law, is for us to understand. You want to argue, then you have to produce your own reasoning, or you have to have a Quranic hadith support for any scholars, or maybe you can even, it is still at large, the door of ijtihad is still there. It is still subject to change and this and that. It depends on, again, where and what. So women using this cosmetic to attract men, and so you see, it comes with something that is negative, but I think the majority, that is not what your intention when you put on the cosmetic, isn't it? Unless if you have the intention, then you are being hit by this, what is being mentioned here. When going out, especially of the house, so it's obviously haram. If that is the intention, it's obviously haram. But then if you want to put this to make it look nice, you got a good lips or whatever, it doesn't, it is not an issue there. Then again, you need to also see the social context. Does the society accepted that or not? Because this is how the system works in Islam. Then there will be no extremism, actually, if you have applied accordingly. If you didn't, then obviously then it becomes an extremist group, or they call it the asceticism, the very ascetic group who wants to be just everything pale, that's it. At the same time, however, the interpretation of that which is apparent as being the outer garment or covering is not acceptable. For this is not something which can possibly be concealed, so that an exemption must be made. How can you conceal your lips? Cannot, right? So similarly, that the wind blows cannot be controlled. You can't blame the wind whether an exemption is made or not. So what strikes the mind is that the purpose of exemption was to provide some concession for the believing woman by permitting her to show something which is possible to conceal. Reason would indicate that it is the face and hand which are exempted from covering. So like what you are wearing now, that this is allowed in the religion. So assuredly a woman is permitted to show her face and hand, and because covering them would be hardship on her, right? Especially if she must go out on some lawful business, For example, a widow may have to work to support her children, or a woman who is not well off may have to help her husband in his work. Had covering the face and hand been made obligatory, then it would be very occasion, such women hardship and distress. And Imam Qurtubi, rahimahullah alayhi, said, it seems probable that since the face and hands are customarily uncovered, and it is moreover required that they be uncovered during act of worship such as prayer and Hajj. That is the stand of Shafi'i school again. The exemption referred to in these verses of Surah An-Nur pertain to them. So this conclusion is supported by what Imam Abu Dawud rahimahullah transmitted on the authority of Aisha radiallahu anha. She said that Asma, the daughter of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhum, once came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam wearing transparent clothes. Then the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam turned his face away from her and said to her, "O Asma, when a woman begins to menstruate, nothing should be seen of her except this and this," pointed to the face and the hand. In addition to this, we may infer from Allah's word, "Tell the believing men and they should lower their gaze," that the face of a woman on on the Prophet's times were not veiled. Had the entire body, including the face, been covered, it would have been made no sense to command them to lower their gaze, since there would have been nothing to be seen. In spite of all this, however, because of the widespread immorality and laxity in our time, so it is better for the Muslim woman to conceal all their ornaments, including her face, as possible as she can. Obviously, more caution in this regard is necessary for a woman who is so beautiful that men may be attracted to her. And this is why they quoted that verse again. So it's not true that there are people who say there is no Quranic verses that say you have to cover up to your bosom. As you can see very clearly here, Allah commanded they should draw their head covering over their bosom. It's very funny, there are people who argue to say that there is no such command. I don't know where they get it from. I mean, they only read partial of the Quran, not the whole Quran, so they didn't cite this one. So, yeah.
So do you think in today's, in Singapore context, it's better to cover the face or not? Because I mean, based on Sheikh Yusuf Qaradawi, is that you are saying that because of the immorality that is very common nowadays, it's better for you to cover the face, although his initial argument was you don't have to. In Singapore context, what do you think, sir? I mean, personal opinion.
Yeah, I mean,
do you think
it's
still okay for us not to cover or to cover?
Yeah, it is okay for us not to cover. Because again, you need to also think of the norm. What is the norm in that society? So the norm is they show their faces, isn't it? So follow. If you want to be abnormal, then you are imposing difficulties onto yourself.
In fact, you may actually be attracting more attention in a way.
That's what happened in the context of our society. I don't want to mention them. Some of this group that used to be wearing on veil, it becomes a lot of issue in the society. And then suddenly, silently, there's a growing number of all the other negativity that occurred from this kind of group. So, it's something that is again, like I said, the best is to follow the norm. What is the norm in that society? Because the norm, it becomes under the uruf.
Culture.
Yeah, because it's accepted by the society. So they don't want to see something that maybe, like you are like backfiring them, you're trying to make them think, make them look low. Because if the norm is accepted by the society, impossible that there is a perversion. You cannot be pervert if it is something that is the norm in the practice, isn't it? But again, there are very thin line there to draw.
But this is assuming that the norm in that society is within Islamic boundaries.
Correct.
So we are defining social norms as within Islamic boundaries. Yes. Okay.
Otherwise, it's very hard to draw a line because it may be the norm, like in the current situation. I mean, you better get used of seeing ties every day, whether you like it or not. So that becomes the norm now.
But but regarding the example, it does not mean we follow, because that is the norm, but it's not within Islam. So we stick to our minimal Islamic clothing, I suppose.
Honestly speaking, if we have no Islam, I don't know why should you be angry. Why should you put up a very negative look, or that makes others think that that person is a pervert, where actually there are many ways on. I mean, Islam uses a soft approach. It's always a case of smart, make them feel like there must be something wrong with them. Rather than you gave a very negative and pretend not to look, and that is even worse. You know, it's not going to make much of a change because you're creating like distance between you and the other party. Islam doesn't approach in that way. Islam, I mean, let's put it in simple. It should be approachable. I mean, you must be very what you call it. You have to have an aura in your that's why it is important of the amal there. The knowledge and the amal must be there. And I mentioned this yesterday in class. That's why I keep on repeating the three major subjects must be completed. And I think if you remember, I was mentioning to them yesterday that in that PCI2 there are some important text that is attached to it. You must go back there and read again.
Is it the point, the hadith or the dua?
Yes. There's a mention of some of the example how the Prophet impresses the neighbors who is the worst enemies of the Prophet, and then at the end of the day, became like Muslims just due to because of Prophet repeat that hate with love. So that is a very good example on the approach of when you talk about trying to make a person. It's a question of, and I explained to the class also yesterday. I said that da'wah you need to attend a course table, but nasiha no need. Based on the hadith of the Prophet, ad-dinul Islam nasiha. So if you want to give an advice is allowed in Islam. But when you want to propagate, no, you need to learn. You need to have the knowledge. You need to understand the methodology on the approach of how to do da'wah. Otherwise, you will, instead of bringing them into Islam, they become very far from Islam. This is saddest things of what we didn't realize these things. Okay, so so if you are really very beautiful, then yeah, even in this society, don't you think that it's best that you cover, isn't it? Because you distracted a lot of people. I don't know whether is there any that kind of attraction that men get attracted to that kind of women today, Mr. Agus? Is there any?
Men.
Wow. Yeah, they get attracted that kind of to the woman that is meaning like one look at that woman, it doesn't work until you have to turn your head and you finally go and bump into something. I don't think so. We have that kind of beauty. But if you've been to Saudi Arabia, I think you know, right? I mean, unfortunately, if you don't get to see them, then you don't know. If you get to see them, then you know that they need to put on veil. It's wise enough that they have been commanded to put on veil because it's very distracted. You get attracted to them even when you're doing your power. So that's why for them it's yes. But if there are such women in our society, then it will apply also to. So it is obligatory for Muslim women to cover her head. This one is a must. Her chest and then neck completely. Because these are, again, if you study what they call it, erotic zone, these are the places. That's why Islam wants to save the women. They ask you to cover the chest, the neck completely, so that nothing of them can be seen by the onlookers. In addition, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala again mentioned in the same chapter, Surah An-Nur verse 31, which means and not display their ornament except to their husband or their fathers. So there's a list given of who can see what in this book. So this injunction prohibits women to show their concealed ornaments, such as the ears. These are, again, as I said, there are differences. There are differences of the scholars. But these are the majority: ears, hair, neck, the chest, ankle, to men who are outside the mahram relationship, meaning someone that can marry you. These are the place that you should not be allow them to see, before whom they are permitted to expose only face and hand, that which is apparent of it. So here given the list, 12 categories of person are exempted from this prohibition. The husband. The husband and the wife can see whatever they please of each other. Very clear there. Hadith stated that God, your nakedness is referring to the aura there, except in front of your wife. So that means your wife can see everything and you can see everything lah, in other words. Okay. Then your father. This one again, there are differences which is not mentioned here, including the grandfather from both mother and father's side as well. There are differences in terms of how far can they see. So some say that the whole body same, but there are some that says that certain area can be seen too, which is not mentioned in this book. And then the third one is your husband's father, meaning the grandfather, if you have a children. For these are again regarded as fathers to women. The grandfather is also regarded as father. Their son has the grandson from both son and daughters. Your husband's son or stepson, a necessity for normal interaction since the woman is regarded as their mother. Their brothers, including half and step brothers. So you need to know. Their brother's son, since marriage is permanently prohibited between man and his paternal aunt. And their sister's son, since marriage is again permanently prohibited between man and his maternal aunt. Their women, meaning female relative, like sister in faith, that is other Muslim women. As for non-Muslim women, they are not allowed to see the Muslim woman dominant other than what is allowed for non-mahram men. And the correctness of this opinion is verified. By right, no. I mean, today, alhamdulillah, like I said, I mean, if there are improvements that people are, they're trying to make some changes, like having all the women's in one duty rather than unisex. And those whom their right hand possesses, this is referring to butler, like during the early days, and today refers to bond servant, because in Islam they are considered members of the family. Some scholars restricted this permission to female bond servant only, not to the male. Then male servant who lack sexual desire refer to hired hand, or household servant who, because of some physical or mental condition, are devoid of sexual desire. This is applicable only under the following two conditions: that they are the servant of those into whose house they are given entry and they lack sexual desire. And last but not least, small children who have no carnal knowledge of women. These are some children whose consciousness of sex is not yet developed, but if evidence of sexual urge is noted among them, a woman should treat them like non-mahram men. And even though they may not have reached puberty. Because if now, like in today's context, most of the children, they understand. So it's best not to show the nakedness of your body, except when it's necessary. So the verse in question does not mention maternal and paternal uncle because they customarily occupy the same status as father, as the hadith stated, which means a man's uncle is like his father. So quotation are given, narrated by Imam Muslim. So any question before we move on?
So just to verify, so like so for like my wife, her uncle on your father's side or on her mother's side, she doesn't have to wear the hijab.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter they are Muslim or non-Muslim.
Yes.
Doesn't matter. So talking about the part where they say that marriage is permanently prohibited between a man and his paternal and maternal aunties, it means for me, if I wudu, I can salam my aunties, my father, mother side lah. It doesn't invalidate the wudu lah.
Because those are permanently you cannot marry. We are coming to that, I think, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe we have went through that. I don't know. I saw the chapter about this thing, about who are the temporary you cannot marry, who are the one that you can marry if something happened. Now we come to the aura. Yeah.
If Shari Salam, Abba, my sister,
Okay lah.
can.
Yeah, in our society, we are still very sad to know that so many of our auntie, uncle are still like, batal semua mendengar dia batal lah, batal bilang batal. Where actually in the law it is mentioned clearly they cannot be married. You cannot marry your own uncle.
But in my case, for example, like my auntie, Tante Dewi, that one cannot lah because not related by blood lah. My auntie-in-law lah nak katakan,
Yeah.
that one cannot lah. Oh, okay.
But then it's married to your uncle, it falls under auntie too.
Is it?
Is your uncle, right?
Yeah.
So she become your auntie automatically.
Because according to
Yeah.
sebab perempuan they cannot salam.
Correct. Yeah, I mean because sometimes many other reasons lah, so to say kan, but in today's context, it's been made,
So
made clear.
So my auntie has, although nak katakan is not maternal, but because my auntie is married to my uncle,
Correct.
by that bond, she becomes my maternal auntie lah.
Yes. Once if there's a marriage, right, it becomes part of the family.
So you can salam si Aziz.
Yeah.
Salam because she also Muslim.
Because permanently prohibited from getting married lah. Okay.
Even whatever happened to your uncle, there's no way you can take over the wife.
But
It's
I still
prohibited.
cannot salam Shari's uncle.
Why not?
Cannot. Because last time
Because-
I was told I cannot do why.
The uncle is what? Mother's brother, right?
Yeah.
It's on the mother side, right? Okay. They are still within the family,
He's like immediate family.
immediate family.
But-
So that means as long as my marriage.
Yes. As long as you cannot marry them, okay.
Tapi cousin tak boleh dah.
Cousin, no. Cousin is, you can still marry.
So it means that because she's married to me, my aunties, my uncle
Yes.
become her uncle in that sense lah.
By right, yes. In
By-
Islam, yes.
By the marriage ties.
Yes. Under the Islamic law, yes. But unfortunately, sometimes the culture, the customary is the one that say no. But again, what do you call it? There are still certain rules. Example, like maybe she's younger, she's prettier, then you got something, you crush on her, then better not.
So that one is case by case, but generally the rule is
Because you definitely cannot marry your auntie. Because it's your mother's brother wife. Very close. The blood ties there are very close.
so usually I think initially I have the impression that it has to be by direct blood lah. In the way lah, like because like my aunties, they are my mother's actual sisters. So because of that the blood is stronger versus so called macam in-law begitulah Ustaz. So yeah. So right now it doesn't really matter because by the bond of marriage is okay.
Automatic. It will fall under those. I think there's a mention of this later about where this prohibition of marriage is temporary. Belum tahu. Current susah. It's about, as I said, I mean, it's a question of your consciousness. Islam is talking about, how you felt. Do you feel strange? It's just like if you do an experiment, if you have a child, when you have a daughter like my daughter, she feels very funny at this age if I hug. The mindset is different because in today, because today the women understand what this hugging with love and hugging in the social contact is two different things. But during during their time, they don't know. They don't know. You hug them, they okay. Today, no, the women will jump at you. They understand that contact, the physical body contact means something negative. But during the early days, no, different. They don't know. They don't know. But although they feel weird, but they don't. They are very The decency is the one that makes them clear their mind. No, cannot be like my uncle. Cannot be doing this and that. And so this is the beauty of, I think these few days it's been mentioned by Mufti in his present in the evening. He mentioned about it is important for us to understand that faith is interchangeable. It depends on an example like, okay, all these years, I mean, with all due respect to your aunties and uncle, all these years you have learned fiqh, you have learned the subject of Islamic law, and it touches on, there are only what they call it 7 water, which is known as al-ma'ul mutlaq, pure water. But suddenly in the year 2006 or 2004, we came up with new water. Then there's an addition of, becomes from 7 becomes 8. I said that's what I meant by it is a subjective things, and it follows the time and the environment that you are in, where if there's a need for the law to be amended, then it will be amended accordingly. We need to be open towards this issue, because what happened to our older generation, this is where they don't understand the system, and that leads into extremism again. Angkat ada. Angkat, no. Posturage, this is under posturage. We will come to that. So now we move on into the woman's aura. What does it mean by a woman aura? Whatever part of the woman's body that is not allowed to be shown constitute her aura. And this one again, it varies from one school to another school. So it must be covered, and if you expose it, it becomes haram. Consequently, with respect to non-mahram men and other Muslim women, a woman's aura is her entire body, with the exception of her face and hair. According to the interpretation we have preferred, we agree with Ar-Razi argument that Islam has permitted her to expose those parts of the body, face and hand, which are needed to be exposed in order to carry out daily business for giving and taking, and it has been commanded her to cover what it is not necessary to expose, and has forgiven her accidental, inadvertent exposure or such exposures as are required by necessity. Well, all this is in accordance with the flexibility of Islam, as I just mentioned. And Imam Al-Razi also said, showing the face and hand is necessary. So here the jurists had no choice but to agree that they are not included in the aura. You need to open up your mind, because in different school thoughts will define aura differently. Okay? And since showing the feet is not necessary, they differ concerning whether or not they are included in the aura. So as we know, in Shabi, he considered it as aura, and Hanafi is no. I mean, just to share with you. So with respect to the above mentioned 12 categories of mahram, relative, a woman is permitted to expose of her hair, ears, neck, upper part of the chest, arms and legs. Other parts of her body, such as her back, abdomen, thighs, The two private parts are not to be exposed before anyone, man or woman, except her husband. So this is earlier, as I mentioned, there are certain parts that it is not allowed, even to a father, except for if you are a married couple, then go ahead lah, what you want to see. So the above interpretation of the verse is closer to its intent, again, than that of some scholars who say that with respect to her mahram relatives and other Muslim women. So the woman's aura is the area between her navel and her knee. This is some opine of this opinion. Rather, the intent of the verse seems to support the opinion of some scholars who say that with respect to her mahram relative, the woman's aura is that part which is not exposed while she's doing her housework. So you see, that you have to be looking into the norm of that society, isn't it? You know, like in some part of the world, running around naked at home is natural. So you need to see the norm of what is being practiced. If running around naked in our society becomes the norm, then it doesn't fall under these categories. Just to share with you. Okay? So the woman aura is that part which is not exposed while she's doing her housework, and that is whatever is exposed during the course of her daily chores may be seen by men who are her mahram relatives. That is why Allah, glory be to Him, command the believing women to cover themselves with a loose overgarment whenever they go out, for in this way they may be distinguished from non-believing and loose women. Allah glorified be He commanded His Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam to convey to the whole Ummah of Islam this divine message in Surah Ahzab verse 59, which means, O Prophet, tell thy wife and daughters and the believing women that they should put on their outer garments. And there's an Arabic word there, jalabi. Jalabi. These are normally in Dubai. They use this jalabiya rather than in Saudi. It's very more to habaya. So this is most convenient in order that they may be recognized as Muslim and not to be molested. So basically, it's just to distinct, to have to know to distinguish between believer and non-believer. That's all. Because during the period of Jahiliyyah, the ignorant or the dark ages, some women used to go out with the attractive parts of their bodies, which is still happening in our time, such as the neck, upper part of the chest, and the V shape or whatever, the hair, and expose the loafer and visher would follow them about. So this noble verse came down commanding the believing woman to cover herself with her garment so that no provocative part of her body would be visible. The underlining is protecting the woman, but I believe the woman cannot accept that. Is it? You have a mind of your own to be thinking, I'm just beautifying myself, when the religion is protecting you. You need to understand the underline on this is where normally the Arabic term is the ilah, the rational or rather what is behind some of this ruling, which is still not being properly understood by many of us. So you need to understand this is where, because her appearance reflecting that she was chaste, believing women, no lecher or hypocrite would dare to molest. So it is clear from this verse that the reason of this injunction is not fear of women misbehavior or mistrust of them. No, that is not why it was prohibited, as some people claim, but the danger to them from lecherous and evil men. For the woman who decked herself out, walk seductively or talk invitingly, always attract men who lust after her. And again, the Quran verifies in Surah Al-Ahzab verse 32, then do not be too pleasant of speech, lest one in whose heart there is a disease found feel desire for you. You really can't tell, isn't it? How are you? They are very thin line, how can you tell that whether Nasi is cheeky or not? If Nasi is talking to you. Right, can you tell?
Sometimes like the body language sometimes can tell.
If there really a sign of the body language, but what happens? Some words, Jamas, we get attracted to somebody who had a very husky voice and whatever.
Very eloquent.
So it's all the individual, you know. So the religion cannot draw the very fine detail of it. That's why the analogy are still there. You need to be making the analysis, you know, as and when, and depend on as I said, the norm in that society. You know? So according to Islam, insists that Muslim women cover and so protect herself. No concession is made in this except to reduce it somewhat for all women. Allah also know once you become old, who got feeling for you? You want to show whatever you want to show lah, who cares? But still again, very subjective. There are some pervert that go for all. I think there was a case in the newspaper, a 65 years old grandmother was being raped, you know. So, so it's true enough what is being mentioned here. So Allah mentioned in Surah Nur, if you're elderly, you really consider yourself as an elder, it's okay lah. You can open your head, and the elderly women among who are past the prospect of marriage, there is no blame on them if they lay aside their outer garments. You can open up the, you know, what I don't know what you call it. You don't make difficult don't put difficulties onto her lah. You can ask her to wear sexy, okay. Because the weather I'm talking about. I mean, this is allowed in this is a concession, which normally in our society we don't want to understand. But Allah knows these people are growing old. You know, you get very irritated sometimes with the itchiness, and this and that. So let them wear something look sexy. It's nothing what you can't see what. Even if they were to wear something sexy, it's not going to be sexy. You know what I'm trying to say? So basically, we must help them to make them, because Allah gives this concession. Allah is the one that gives the concession, and the elderly among women who are past. I mean, yeah, you can ask her lah, if she feels that she's comfortable with whatever that she wears, it's okay. But there are women that no, they just want to put the bra, the old lady's bra, not like ours, the younger one, the like a waistcoat, yeah, right. Yeah. If that's what they want, but not the young one lah. Come on lah.
I heard from someone, a woman saying that, which of course I don't believe at all. She said that women who pass 50, they have an option not to close hijab.
Yeah.
They're not to close.
But 50
Yes.
is now the
50 is
very
still young lah.
Still young now.
So,
Now
That's why I said you have to follow. You have to follow the norm in that society lah. If to us 50 is still young, still can look like, if you dress up the 60 can still be very sexy. So 50 is definitely still like.
but is it in the
Yeah, in the religion it's allowed. It's a concession.
it's a concession. It's not in the law or
No, it's in the Quran. It's Allah. There's mentioned now, and elderly among women. They are when they pass their prospect marriage, there is no blame on them. Meaning Allah will not have them responsible if they want to be just like berkemban, like during the olden days, our parents berkemban aja lah panas kan. It's okay.
but does it really stated age 50?
No, of course not.
No, right?
It uses the term ajuz in Arabic.
Right.
Ajuz. Ajuz is referring to old age lah. So again, as I say, it follows the norm and the society lah. What do you consider is old? But you cannot follow the other, what do you call it? It's not a religion, but others, how they define what is old. There is no old in other except Islam is the one that give a kind of, what do you call it? A guideline, isn't it? Because I think in other civilization, they consider life begins at 40. But Islam gives us a guideline that life should stop at 40. Meaning stop there means like you kind of like slow down, start understand. So it's something again, as I said just now, will look at the norm of that society. When do you call a person old? Like in our society, I think even at my age, they don't call you. When I tell them I'm 16, oh, you're still young. Alamak. I say, when you call it old then? So you see, you got to be very careful because sometimes you cannot get distracted with what is being practiced in that society. You have to go back again to Quran and Sunnah. Then you get, there's a guideline given there. So here by the elderly among women is men such as post-menopause. Then that's where you get for the women who have no desire for marriage or sex already. Then you call them old because tak boleh pakai already.
Ustaz,
expired.
macam Najib punya wife.
Najib? Apa ni? Najib mana tadi?
Najib Razak.
Oh.
Najib Razak punya wife dia kenal. Tak pakai, like she can not wear hijab lah because she's older than Asia.
Again, as I said, what is the norm in their society? The Arabic word is ajuz for female, and then for male is, I forgot. There is a Quranic term they use. Yeah, that's what I said. You have to see how the society perceptions. As I said again, the norm in that society. There are people who are elderly, but then doesn't want to be an elders, and then change with the what makeover things today. It's very difficult to gauge when, but you cannot take away the age. You can be making changes to your body. The age remain the same. So as long as you know, Islam gave a guideline. The Prophet gave a guideline. That's why we started at 40. We stop at 40. We slow down at 40. So after that, it's already considered as you being old. Then there's a dispensation given, which is not practiced in the society.
But I think that was those days, years back. But now at this modern context, I think so you cannot apply that.
Apply what?
Apply means that at 50, 60, then no need to. Because at that age, because the woman still maintain. So,
I don't get your.
I mean, like what I mean, like just not the woman have a choice.
Women now at 50,
At 60, they still look good. So,
Yeah, that's why I said just now. You follow the norm in that society. What is the norm in that society? If you play by the age, and if it is not happening, it will not happen. Then you cannot apply that. Then you have to follow the norm in that society. But yeah, you have to see it's something that you cannot. Yeah, I mean it's agreeable, and as I just mentioned that Islam is always welcome the change now, because you have to see what happened in that society. What is the norm in that society? Like today, like people making love in public, it is still not something that is not accepted by the society yet. Although it has been made known with the internet and this and that. And a lot of these things have been posted in the FB if you are very fond of browsing it. Even live, somebody people making love in public stairs, So it is still not accepted. There are comments in that Facebook, you know, they dislike this kind and they find that it's very disgusting, you know, and this and that. So then you know, okay, that is still not the norm. So we need to make the necessary change according to what is being accepted by the society.
But I think bottom line, you should know, right?
Huh?
Bottom line, and you should know whether you are.
Yeah. But you will be very surprised, you know, there are, I mean, even elderly women today, they refuse to want to know that they are old.
You know, the husband still feel, even though my wife still old, I still stick beautiful, that still cannot.
Yeah, I mean, it is not an individual thing, lah. You can't use it for an individual, but the law is more to universal, lah. I mean, you can't apply on the individual. If you want to be thinking your wife is young and you want always her to be attracted, that has always been in the teaching of the religion. But the problem, like I was talking to mine, because it's recorded, I was telling her, I said, did I complain anything about you? The problem is you want to be looking good, but you didn't consult your husband. Is your husband the one that wants you to be looking good, or you want to be looking good on the eyes of others? So which is which? You got to ask yourself that question. You know, it's very important in the religion that everything that what you do, and if you're a married woman,
They don't really want to look good for others, they want to look good for themselves. You know?
but if you have the intention of making others attracted to you,
It's
right?
all down to me,
I mean, basically, the religion is just protecting you. I mean, it's not, I'm not.
So used to dress up.
No, I mean,
From very young.
a lot of the women still doesn't understand. It is not about you cannot be dressing up. You can be dressing up. You can be looking sexy, but within your own house. The moment you're out, the rule the rule will be different, because the purpose of the religion is to facilitate. See, it facilitate. You know, it is making your life easier. If you don't want to follow the guidelines, you want to change, then it's up to you. You have to face the consequences yourself. It is not like, you know, die you must follow. No, you have to see the situation. So Allah has made this concession for them so that they can put aside their covering garments, like, you know, some of what is being mentioned here, abaya, jilbab. You know, you can be more a little bit relaxed. But still, however, the Quran makes it a condition that they should not be for the purpose of display. See, it's not a purpose of display. You don't want to be showing that you have a sexy body and this and that. You know, they are ornament, but only for ease and comfort when necessary. Despite this concession, it is preferable and better for them to be more perfect in their dignity and far removed from any suspicion. But as the Quran mentioned, but it is better for them to be modest. Wallahu alam bisawab. We stop here.
So the idea is that although you are given a concession, but because of that last verse which says, but it is better, so if you want to be better, then you will still cover up. This is different from the ruksa of like Musafir or whatever of that. That one is better for you to actually take the concession, but in this case,
Yes.
you are given, but because of the additional verse at the end, actually it's better if you just stick as per normal.
But like I said, that's why normally they interpret differently. They always think that there is an obstacle. The religion doesn't understand, you know, what they want, which is not true, right? That's why when you are in class, this is the best time for us to discuss. Rather than you base on presumption and assumption, then you get yourself into trouble for nothing.
I'm a bit confused about the Muslima's aura in front of female relative and other Muslimas, because at the top it says under the list of non under the list of mahram, female relative and sisters in faith, which is other women, they can basically show their adornment, meaning they can show their hair and everything. But then again, then at the bottom they say different pula. They say that other Muslim woman, a woman's aura is her entire body, except for the face and hands. So which one is which?
Okay, what they are referring to is like example when you as I said again, that what is the norm in that society?
So like for my wife with a female relative who are Muslim and other Muslimas, she can
Show her hair.
show her.
The normal what she wear in her daily, that is allowed.
Tie, the two private parts, the back,
Correct.
the abdomen, that one can. But when the female becomes a non-Muslim, even if non-Muslim relative, they become non-mahram.
Yes.
So that even the female relative non-Muslim also they become non-mahram, and she have to wear the hijab. Sister Ustad?
Sister no name. The same, if it's the same species, what is the norm that she wear in at home is what is allowed to be seen.
Oh, because that's why I was asking about non-Muslim female relative or friends.
If relative can be seen already, that means the non-Muslim mahram can see also.
So if the Muslim,
You said just now, mahram can see, right? Then the non-Muslim mahram can also see.
meaning
Because, like example, the normal, what they are talking here, like example, like in our society, when you see a woman not wearing the hijab, I don't think so you get excited, right? That's what they mean there. So what is being practiced in that society? If you get to see women not wearing the hijab, if you don't get excited, if they are not, they are where they can marry you, it is still okay there. Okay, maybe I'll give you an example. Like there are some of our sisters had to remove their headgear when they go to work. So is that something that is distractive or distracted when they are not wearing it and when they put it on? What makes the difference there?
I can't understand. So, you said the non-Muslim women are not allowed to see you, so not just relatives.
just generally non-Muslim.
By right, non-Muslims are not allowed to see Muslim ladies and
And
but because for my case I'm different because I masuk Islam, so my own relatives structure same status as Muslim mahram. So my father is still cannot marry me, my sister still cannot.
They are under the mahram categories. They cannot marry. Those are under the fosterage and all others. Under the Quran mentioned about who are the one that can only be permanently cannot marry you. There are temporary. They are under the fosterage also. So they are of three kind. I think the book mentioned. So you need to see in what context. And I will be addressing this, inshallah. I will be interviewed with CNA. So these are some of the issues they want to know from me. Kalau aku tengok dia tulis kat KL sama dengan itu. Ni dia punya latest edition, the new edition.
Sama Ustaz, covernya.
Kadang few words bukan sikit.
Sama.
Dia punya
But maybe the wording
the main will still be the same. Some
No, indeed,
choice of
they
words.
moved through straight away the Arabic. None of the Quran is written in Arabic. The Hadith also. Compared to the Malay one,
Malay
no,
mesti
I
ada
prefer.
ada
So I normally will bring that to read the Quran. I need to see the Arabic writing.
Okay.
Device lagi.
Eh?
More advanced lagi. Device lagi.
New
ada
edition.
device, new edition lagi.
Faisal get it for me. And
They keep updating.
Any change to the Bible, I think that
no, they address to many of the Arabic terminologies. In comparison to that, they still use the Arabic. Here they explain like mahram, okay, what? Halwa, what? There's a footnote there. Any other question?